Here's your news for February 16th, 2020. We're starting off today with news from Smackdown, as though The Fiend didn't appear during the show, he did have a match after the cameras stopped rolling. Following Smackdown and 205 Live, The Fiend faced King Corbin in a dark match in Vancouver, which saw Wyatt retain his Universal title in about 5 minutes. After Corbin ate his sister Abigail in a pinfall, the crowd went home happy, as Wyatt remains very much over with the WWE Universe. Over to Raw now, and while WWE will be revisiting the feud between Matt Hardy and Randy Orton tomorrow night, that isn't the only feud getting revamped. It turns out that the Rusev and Lashley feud isn't dead just yet, as the pair will team with Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza respectively for a tag match this Monday in Everett, Washington. Following the announcement being made official, both Lana and Zelina Vega have been hyping the match on Twitter, and this return has led some to speculate that the Bulgarian Brute has inked a new deal with WWE after months of negotiations. Also on Raw, fans can prepare for Tom Phillips to say Monday Night Messiah a lot, as it's been announced that Seth Rollins will be holding his first sermon. While the former Universal Champion's sermon will be interesting, one person who isn't pleased is former WWE superstar Reverend Jeremiah Constantine, who thinks the WWE's ideas are pretty similar. A few weeks back, Constantine claimed that the Weekend Update parody for the Street Profits was an idea he came up with, that the company used for someone else. Now he's calling the company out once again, as he's claiming the sermon idea was his brainchild too. We'll have to see if WWE keeps using ideas that Reverend Jeremiah Constantine just so happens to suggest in a public forum, but if this keeps happening, it might be hard to argue with the idea that someone in WWE's creative team is paying attention to what the Reverend has to say. Whatever happens, tomorrow's Raw should certainly be an interesting one, as it'll also include the next steps from the Becky Lynch vs. Shayna Baszler feud, as well as a better idea of Charlotte Flair's WrestleMania plans following tonight's NXT TakeOver Portland. We've got some news from Major League Wrestling now, as the company is reportedly unhappy with WWE following allegations of McMahon's company tampering with contracted MLW talent. Mike Johnson of the PW Insider is reporting that MLW's attorneys have contacted WWE's legal team, alleging that the latter has attempted to tamper with MLW contracted talent. According to the report, this isn't just in response to MLW star Davey Boy Smith Jr. appearing on this week's edition of WWE's The Bump, but is in relation to multiple talents. The report notes that ever since MLW began signing talent in 2018, their contracts have had language regarding the prohibiting of talent working WWE dates, with a note that the promotion strengthened its language against working dates for other promotions after AEW was formed in 2019. During a StarCast convention, Cody Rhodes made reference to becoming aware of contract tampering when trying to initially sign Tony Schiavone, who was initially exclusive to MLW. The report also states that an MLW source has claimed the promotion has an abundance of evidence if the matter ever needs to go to court, though they hope that that won't be necessary. MLW contracts explicitly say that their contracted stars can't work for WWE, but at the time of MJF and Jimmy Havoc's signings, there was no AEW, so that loophole allowed those stars to work for both promotions. Time will tell whether MLW and WWE end up in court, but given the size of Vince McMahon's company, MLW's attorney should expect to go up against some top-class lawyers. Now, Val Venis was a staple of the Attitude Era, where his porn star character had a fondness for the ladies, but it seems the Big Valboski isn't a fan of trans women. Following Nyla Rose winning the AEW Women's Championship on this week's Dynamite, Venis, who runs a marijuana dispensary now, had plenty to say about her and women's wrestling as a whole. In a tweet, the former WWE superstar claimed that the wrestling industry was being ruined by the WWE dropping the term women from the NXT Women's title, Impact having Tessa Blanchard as world champion, and called Nyla Rose a man. It should be noted that Triple H squashed the rumor about NXT dropping gender-specific names, and that Rhea Ripley's championship is still being called the NXT Women's title. In a transphobic meme, Venis said he now identifies as a Great Dane, and claimed he'll enter the Westminster Dog Show, where he plans to win the XL Dog title. Eric Sims later spoke to the Big Valboski and, despite calling her a man, claimed Venis is pro-Nyla, but not a fan of AEW's writing. He said, "Just spoke to Sean Morley, Val Venis, about his comments on Nyla Rose. He is pro-Nyla but anti-writing on with AEW. He has some strong opinions based on facts. I suggested getting in the ring and challenging Nyla Rose to a match, and he agreed to it. Now we need a promotion to do it with. I think my friends at Titan Championship Wrestling would have the perfect platform for him/them to have a match." Rose made it very clear that she doesn't plan on dropping her AEW Women's Championship anytime soon, and it's also interesting to note that one of the people who wasn't a fan for becoming champion is someone with a gimmick stuck in the 90s. From one Attitude Era star to another now, as Matt Hardy might be leaving the WWE after his contract expires on March 1st, but if he does, he'll be leaving a lot of money on the table to pursue his own creativity. Brad Shepard reports that Matt was offered a, quote, substantial contract, worth 6 figures a year, but he still hasn't re-signed with WWE at this point. Matt isn't the only star who's been the subject of contract speculation, as the Good Brothers recently signed a deal which will earn each man $700,000 a year, while the Revival are currently holding off on signing new contracts with WWE worth even more than Gallows and Anderson's deals. Matt Hardy could be free to go anywhere he wants as soon as possible if he lets his WWE contract run out. That might be happening soon enough if he continues to resist signing a new deal. We've got some news from the WWE Hall of Fame now, as former WWE superstar the British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith may finally be receiving his rightful spot. Passing away tragically too soon, aged 39 in 2002, the Bulldog was a huge star throughout his career, especially to the British fans who saw him win the Intercontinental title at Wembley Stadium in London at SummerSlam 1992. Following up from a previous report saying that WWE are working on inducting Davey Boy, his widow, Diana Hart, has said that she's all for her husband's induction. Diana, one of the many children of Stu and Helen and the sister of Bret Hart, thanked people who have carried out petitions to get Davey Boy Smith inducted.
Of animals, in particular our cats. And through there we became good friends, and I talked to you at length about how much it meant to me to get Davey, my late husband, Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldog, inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. Well, gee, when you told me that you would take on that quest and start an online petition, I had no idea that thousands and thousands of fans later you would still be at it, tirelessly working with the petition, www.teamdavyboysmith, getting people and stars and wrestlers, friends, to sign the petition, to do public media about it, to generate public awareness, and to let people know what a phenomenal wrestler Davey was, what a great person he was, what a good friend he was. I miss him. I always will. He was my best friend. He was the best friend to so many people. I think I can say on behalf of millions that it means the world to us to see Davey inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, and it means so much to my family as well, to my kids, Harry and Georgia, and my brothers and sisters, and Davey's family over in England, and all of his friends and family in the wrestling community. If you're not sure about Davey, just go online on YouTube or Daily Motion and look up Davey Boy Smith or the British Bulldog and see his great matches. You will understand why it means so much to me and his fans and Michael Finney to have him inducted into the World Wrestling Federation or Entertainment Hall of Fame. So thank you very much, Michael. God bless you. Thank you so much for your friendship. Bye for now.
Over the years, thousands have spoken out by signing such petitions, and we'd like to give a special mention to Michael Finney, who has been on this relentlessly. In the end, the WWE Hall of Fame inductees are 100% Vince McMahon's decision. But hopefully 2020 will finally be the year of the Bulldog, as Batista and the New World Order have already been announced for the ceremony, which will take place during WrestleMania week. Speaking of Hall of Famers, one man who put his body through a lot during his career to earn his spot is Kurt Angle, and over half of the punishment the Olympian endured happened away from WWE. That is why Kurt's return to the WWE ring was so limited, and why he retired from in-ring competition last year after losing to Baron Corbin at WrestleMania 35. While speaking to TKO, Angle admitted that since he got clean from the various addictions that have haunted him, his body has started breaking down, but because he doesn't have painkiller assistance, his quality of life is pretty bad. He said, "I don't know, I'm hurting pretty badly. My knees, my back, my neck. Sometimes I think about, would I go back? My quality of life right now sucks, so I do have a lot of suffering. I had a painkiller addiction that I overcame about 6 years ago. Staying clean and struggling the way I've been, it's very difficult." There are a ton of options for Kurt to try, including stem cell therapy, which has been used by stars such as Kevin Nash, Rey Mysterio, and the recently unretired Edge. While his body may be hurting, it's great to see Angle is staying clean, so at least he can deal with these issues with a clear mind. During an interview with Sportskeeda, the Olympian revealed his thoughts on WWE and who he sees as future main eventers. He said, "The main event next year at WrestleMania? 2 wrestlers? Gosh, there are a lot of guys. I don't know, Roman? Like he's not already main evented 4 times. But I'm sure he'll main event, and I would say, who's the guy? I like Andrade. I think Andrade might main event WrestleMania. He's ready." The following year, I'd say Aleister Black. Those 2 guys are, and Buddy Murphy, don't count this guy out. He's going to come on strong this next year. Those 3 guys are changing the game. There's a new style, and if you watch them, you'll see what I'm talking back. Despite being retired, Angle could very well still be a big part of future WrestleManias, but time will tell whether Black, Andrade, or Murphy ever get the chance to close out the biggest show of the year. More Hall of Famer news now, as Beth Phoenix impressed a lot of fans during this year's Women's Royal Rumble, as not only did she almost win, but she competed with a heavy bleeding from the back of her head. During the match, the Glamazon was busted open when her head hit the back of a ring post, but completed every spot as she had planned. One woman who shared the ring with her and saw Phoenix's toughness firsthand was her good friend Natalya, who told WWE's The Bump, "Yeah, her head was covered in blood. She cut her head early on in the match, but she's such a relentless, fearless warrior. That's just a testament of who Beth Phoenix is, and that's why she has stood the test of time in this industry, and why so many women all over the world, and especially in the women's locker room, look up to Beth Phoenix." Phoenix can now be seen and heard each week as part of NXT's commentary team, but it's still cool to know that the former women's champion can still perform at a high level, just like she did before her departure in 2012. From one NXT star to another now, as Taynara Conti recently returned to the Gold brand at a live event in Fort Pierce, Florida, and has had some fun after reports of her walking out. Fightful Select reported earlier this month that the Brazilian superstar walked out of the company after a disagreement over finances and claimed Conti had refused to work a battle royal on NXT in the middle of January. Toward the end of the month, Conti was still in Florida, taking in some jiu-jitsu training at a local gym. At the time of her alleged departure, her husband contacted MMA writer Mateus Costa and said, "All we can say is Taynara is still under contract with WWE. But now she's back and wore a very special shirt to mark her return." As you can see below, Conti was wearing a released shirt, so she's either playing into the real-life stories or they are turning the real story into an angle. There's also a chance that everything was an angle to start with, as it'll be interesting to see what comes next for the Brazilian superstar. And finally, we're ending with some news from Smackdown, as Otis's Valentine's Day date with Mandy Rose didn't go according to plan. Before the date even happened, Dolph Ziggler swooped in to ruin things, and now Otis's tag team partner Tucker has promised to get revenge on the show-off. On Twitter, Tucker said he is coming to find Ziggler for what he's done to Otis, and in a follow-up tweet, said that there was a price that came with hurting his heavy machinery partner. Whether this leads to an actual feud or not remains to be seen, but it seems like when it comes to the show-off, all is fair in love and war.